Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One festival after the next festival after the next festival. And then again tomorrow another festival. But it's nice. We just joined the Hare Krishna party. Nice photograph of Haridas Thakura. This is the Murti of Haridas Thakura in his Samadhi place in Puri. And of course by his right elbow there, that's the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And we're going to hear a little bit about his life. The title Namacarya was given directly by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here's a nice murti. Some devotees I know have a murti like this. Haridas Thakura chanting the holy name. Here's a celebrated painting. Of course, it was color, not just black. Here, there's black and white. But the painting is a painting commissioned by the king. The king is paying his obeisances in front of all the devotees, where Gadadhar Pandit is reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, and there's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the shaved head next to Nityananda Prabhu by his right side, or our left side, and behind him Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and then different personalities amongst the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And standing up on the right side, he looks a little on the chubby side, but it's Haridas Thakura hanging up some clothing. And Prataparudra, the king, is paying obeisances before all the Vaishnavas. My understanding is the scene is at Narendra Sarovar. That's that water in the foreground. That's why you know it's Narendra Sarovar, and that the checker pattern is at the shore of the Narendra Sarovar. Because the devotees, along with chanting of the holy name in Kirtan and chanting of the holy name in Japa, they very much liked hearing Gadadhar Pandit reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, as Mahaprabhu did daily, and the devotees did on a regular basis, hearing from him. So here's a little background, little biographical background. 30 to 35 years, approximately, prior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's a little on the older side, comparison to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Budhana in now East Bengal or Bangladesh, in a Muslim family. And we don't know about his childhood, who his mother and father were, his early education, how he lived, and so forth. But we do know this from his biography. From this early stage, he just chanted Krishna's name and was very detached, renounced from worldliness. So sometime later, the when sometime later isn't identified, but he migrated to reside in a forest near the village of Benapole. So we're going to hear this Benapole name a number of times. It's also in Bangladesh. So in Bangladesh there was Muslim rule, and he had the practice of behaving like a mendicant, and he went strictly to homes of Brahmanas and accepted whatever the Brahmanas would offer as his food. And because of his saintliness, his devotedness to the personality of Godhead Krishna, the inhabitants that were not Muslim, but the inhabitants that were Vaishnava, or at least followers of the Vedas, they admired him very much. Now there was another fellow who was also from the Vedic background. He wasn't a Vaishnav, but this is not what the guy actually looked like, but it's just from the internet. Ramchandra Khan. So Ramchandra Khan was a local landlord, and he got the position of being a landlord from the Muslim rulers. You know, it's just how things work. They were Pathan rulers, and they sometimes gave landlord responsibilities to the locals, because for practical reasons, the locals would be submissive to one who was of their kind, who is a leader and respected leader, and so they followed the respected leader rather than following the Muslims, and that's how they could expand themselves all over the place by military rule. But they had local people doing, some things. So Ramchandra Khan was one of those people. And in the place where he was, which was outside Benapole, Haridas Thakura had attracted a number of followers, because he went into the residential area from the rural area or the forested area to gather alms, etc. And his saintliness attracted people. So Ramchandra Khan became envious. And he had a plan of how to take away the envy, the credibility of Haridas Thakura by sending a professional prostitute. You know the story. It's a very celebrated story. 3 nights in the dead of night, because Haridas Thakura would chant and chant and chant, she came in her seductive ways and said, woo, 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 enjoy with me. And, in a secluded place, a normal man would succumb to her skills. And he didn't. He said, oh, surely we can enjoy together, but I have to finish my japa. So you can just sit down, and when I finish my japa, we can enjoy. So it went on through the whole night, chanting and chanting and chanting. And when it was daybreak, she left, and she came back the next night, And by the 3rd night, she had become completely purified just by hearing Haridas Thakura's chanting. Lakshahira. So at the end of the 3rd evening, she explained everything, what she had come, specifically by Ramchandra Khan's bidding, and she surrendered all of the wealth that she had accumulated from her profession. And Haridas Thakura wasn't interested in the wealth or anything material. Notice in the painting there's this little tulsi tree by his side. That was his one little thing. And so he then accepted her submission and said, I knew what your plan was, but I stayed simply to deliver you. And so now here's what you can do. You're surrendering. You can shave your head. You can sit here by this same little cottage in front of the tulsi plant and just chant the holy name. And so she didn't come back to report to Ramchandra Khan that she became a Hare Krishna devotee. But he heard, and he was very upset that his attempt to disgrace Haridas failed. So this is in the Benapole place became well known again when Nityananda, because there's a section in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Antya-lila where Nityananda, following the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, waiting for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to become more of a Vaishnava than he was when he was a student. So he went traveling here and there and was engaging people in Krishna Katha. And one of the places he went was Benapul. And one of the places he went when he was in Benapul was the Durga Mandap. Mandap means like a canopy, kind of an affair, an outdoor affair where once a year, as was the tradition amongst the ritualistic Hindus, Ramchandra Khan being one of them, he had a Durga Mandap outside the house. So Nityananda came and sat in his Durga Mandap. And there were many followers of Nityananda. And they sat together and engaged themselves in Krishna Katha. And Ramchandra Khan was particularly displeased. So he sent a messenger from the inside of the house to the outside of the house, inviting Nityananda Prabhu to take a hike. But he didn't say it like that. He said, this is not a large enough place. You have many, many followers. Why don't you go to a larger place more suited for you, like the barn of a milkman? He has a big space in the barn. You can be more suited for you. So he insulted, it could have been worse, but he insulted Nityananda. Nityananda responded by saying, "You're right. Tell Ramchandra Khan that this is not a suited place for me." And he cursed him. And he got up and left. And after he got up and left, the very place where, in the Durga Mandap, where Nityananda Prabhu was seated, Ramchandra Khan had the whole place dug up and then placed cow dung and auspicious articles where he had seated just to purify the now contaminated place where Nityananda had sat. So that's the text here is saying Ramchandra Khan, became ruined from offending both Haridas Thakura and Nityananda. The ruination came when the Pathan ruler, or the Mughal ruler, found out that his landlord agent was not paying his taxes properly. He's collecting the taxes, but keeping them, not paying out sufficiently, returning them to the government. So they came, the Mughal ruler's minister of finance came with some fellows to collect his unpaid taxes. And the unpaid taxes were already squandered, so he, the finance minister, decided to cook the flesh of a cow in the Durga Mandap. And they stayed there for 3 days, ravaging the town and the wealth of Ramchandra Khan, and kicked them out of the village. Took all of his wealth, all of his everything. In that period of time, the whole town, not just Ramchandra Khan, but everybody, was destroyed. And the commentary says, for an offense by one person, the whole village can be harmed, because he was the leader. There's a nice temple today in Benapul. This is the deity of Gornatai. And, down at the bottom, of course, in the far left, that's the 6 Goswamis. And then there's a whole bunch of other personalities. I don't know who they are. And this is the nice little temple. So after, according to the biography, this is now following the path described in Antya-lila about Haridas Thakur, so Chaitanya Charitamrita. When he left, he went next to a place called Chandapur. Chandapur was the place of residence of Balaramacharya. Balaramacharya is very, Majumdar family. Yes? Majumdar family?
Majumdar, yes.
You know. Okay. Majumdar family is the parents of Raghunath Das Goswami. Govardhan and Hiranya Majumdar, the father and the brother or uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami. And their spiritual master was Balaramacharya. And Balaramacharya was guiding them in their Vaishnava activities, but Balaramacharya, recognized Haridas Thakur as being a qualified person. And he was received by the two brothers. And they had some discussions on spiritual topics. So here's a Muslim fellow and the Acharya of a wealthy family, super wealthy family. And in the assembly, there was a fellow named Gopal Chakravarti. And Gopal Chakravarti started speaking, interrupted their conversation and started criticizing Haridas. And because of his birth, not because of what he knew or his other qualities. And he had a problem by offending a Vaishnava. He contracted leprosy. The description is his nose melted with leprosy by offending. He said, because Haridas Thakur was speaking glories, and he said, if these glories are true, if these glories are not true, then I'll cut off your nose. Haridas said, if they're not true, I'll cut off my own nose. So by that nose talking kind of offense, he lost his nose, along with the rest of the leprosy that he... So don't offend Haridas. And from that experience in Chandapur, he then went to Shantipur. And who resided in Shantipur? Advaitacharya, right? Advaitacharya? You know who is Advaitacharya? Okay. That's where he lived. He lived in Shantipur. And while he was there, Advaitacharya honored him without consideration. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's not a detailed description, but this is prostitute number 2. Only specifically, it's Maya Devi herself came to test Haridas, and he didn't succumb to her appeal. It doesn't say if she became a devotee or not. But he passed the test. Then, as is the custom on the occasion of a departed relative, there's a ritual, a Shraddha ritual, and one of the procedures in the Shraddha ritual is the first offering to Vishnu is then given to the person of the greatest honor in the assembly. And Advaitacharya insisted that Haridas Thakur be the recipient of that first offering of Shraddha. And then there was a back and forth and back, how could you, there's so many elevated personalities in this assembly. No, you'll be making an offense to these other great personalities. I'm a nobody. And Advaitacharya argued to the contrary and described the glories of the holy name and one who chants the holy name. This is before the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the glories of the holy name were not unknown, they were known. And Haridas Thakura certainly knew, and Advaita Acharya certainly knew. So he's saying, you are the most honored person because you're constantly chanting the holy name. It's referred to repeatedly in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this incident that happened during the early stage of Haridas Thakura's life. And so from Benapur to Chandapur, from Chandapur to Shantipur, then he went to Pulia. And in Pulia, he was, trying to be very humble, or being very humble, but trying not to gather attention. But just because he was of the spiritual quality that he was, he attracted attention. And so much attention that some local brahmanas complained to the Qazi, you got to do something about this fellow. He's from a Muslim background, but he's attracting our Hindu people. So he lodged a complaint against Haridas Thakura, and the Qazi brought him to trial. First he put him in jail, waiting for trial. And when he's in jail, Haridas Thakura said to the other people that were in jail, "May you stay like this." And they were very sad. What? And he said, "You don't understand what I mean. Stay as you are, it means that within 3 days, you're going to be freed, but you're now thinking about Krishna, whereas before you weren't thinking about Krishna." So from jail, he was brought before the Qazi. The Qazi, some discussion. He's got his nice hookah pipe there, in the painting at least. And after hearing back and forth and back, the king wanted to know why he had given up his Muslim faith, and he took the Hindu faith. And Haridas said, "I haven't become a Hindu, nor was I a Muslim. I'm just a devotee of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is one." And gave some nice Krishna conscious teachings. And the Qazi didn't like it. And so he pronounced the penalty, that he should be beaten in a public square in 22 marketplaces. So that was, with whips. So he had really strong guys, and this skinny Haridas Thakura, beating him and beating him and beating him and beating him and beating him, leaving marks on his body. And Haridas replied when the sentence was given, "Even if my body is cut into pieces and I give up my life, I'll never give up chanting the Lord's holy name. Because it's not coming from the body. It's coming from the soul. So I can't give it up. You can ask me to give it up, but I can't give it up." And the king pronounced, "If he survives being beaten in 22 marketplaces, then we'll understand that he's actually knowledgeable and his words are true." That was the end of the sentence. And then, so he's taken, dragged by some strong guys, and beaten and beaten and beaten. And the painting is showing he's chanting and chanting and chanting. And the people are crying and crying and crying. Oh, what great misfortune. In 22 marketplaces, there was some pronouncement by the Qazi. No one has survived even 1 or 2, what to speak of 22 marketplaces. And he's still vibrant and alive. So how is this possible? But it looked like he had become, Haridas, had entered into a state of trance. So the painting is showing Haridas is standing there, and then the man beating him has this whip, And then the local people, like including ones holding his foot, she's stubborn, huh? Lighthearted and stubborn at the same time. Is that your sister? She's got privileges because you're her brother. She thinks she does anyways. Okay. So after being beaten, there's marks all over his body. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later showed the marks. There were no marks on your body because I accepted those marks on your body from the beatings. But, a very celebrated event. And he sat when the beating, and he was still alive, and he just sat and went into a state of trance, chanting the holy name. So the Qazi accepted that he's dead. But if we bury him, then that won't be good because he'll go to heaven by burying him. That's like the Hindu or the Muslim view. You bury somebody, they go to heaven when they die. So instead we'll throw him into the Ganges. Just like a piece of rubbish. So they threw him into the Ganges. He floated around for a while, came to the shore of the Ganges, and got up, regained external consciousness, and started walking around chanting Hare Krishna again. And then the word went to the Qazi, this is what happened, from the constables. And he went to see, and sure enough, there was Haridas chanting and chanting. So he came and fell at his feet and said, "Excuse me for beating you with 22 marketplaces. You're a saintly person. And from this day forward, I make the pronouncement that no one in this kingdom shall harm you. You may go wherever you like and do whatever you like." And Haridas smiled. And he didn't stay in the public place because he wasn't looking for fanfare. He went to live in a cave. There's another little episode. The Haridas, we're speaking about Haridas Thakura. You know who is Haridas? You know a little bit? Namacarya, the chanter of the holy name, the acharya for the chanting of the holy name. So he was chanting the holy name in a cave because he didn't want publicity. And as he was chanting in the cave, it became known that there was a fierce snake in the cave. And the fierce snake in the cave was poisonous, and his poison was so toxic that anybody that came in to see Haridas in the cave, their eyes would burn because it was too nasty, just from the toxic poison in the cave where the snake was. So they reported this to the snake charmer. Can you get rid of this snake? And he said Haridas should leave the cave. This snake is too nasty. So Haridas agreed. He said, by tomorrow, I have to finish my rounds. First it was a prostitute, now it's a poisonous snake. I have to finish my rounds, and tomorrow I'll leave. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita describes, before the morning came, the snake left the cave. Now these are some saintly persons that came to visit Haridas, recognizing when they saw this thing happen, he's, plus the previous things that happened in the same place, in Pulia, the same place is where he was beaten and beaten and beaten and survived. So his credential was becoming well known. Now there was another scene, this subsequent that happened nearby. It's also in Puglia, but not, the same place. There was a snake charmer. And the snake charmer was charming cobras, like this fellow was doing with some musical instrument. And then the snake charmer put the snake back in the box and started describing Krishna's pastimes with the Kaliya serpent. And when Haridas heard the narration of Krishna's pastimes with the Kaliya serpent, he fainted. Just hearing the narration of Krishna subduing the Kaliya serpent. And when he fainted, then people were ooh and ah and, worshipping him. There was a brahmana in the audience that saw the same, everyone, he fainted and everyone's worshipping him, so he also fainted, or pretended to faint. And the snake charmer understood exactly what he was doing, and so he took a stick and started beating the brahmana. You're not a brahmana, you're a fake. Get out of here. And whacked him hard enough the brahmana got up and ran. And then he spoke, the difference between a pseudo personality and the genuine personality. And Haridas was the genuine personality. And the pseudo should be driven away, and that's exactly what happened. Now going forward, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has now appeared, because all these were pastimes before he appeared. And when he appeared, then Haridas Thakura, as you may know, he resided nearby, but not immediately in the vicinity of Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So many of you know already what the Mahaprakash Leela is. Do you know what the Mahaprakash Leela is? I bet you do. I'm going to start narrating it and you go, oh yeah, I know what it is. So there was a period of time, pay attention, there's a period of time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to have kirtan. And the place where they had kirtan was the house of Srila Thakur. Srila Thakur. Srila Thakur was a brahmana, very respected brahmana, same in the one in the Panchatattva, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda, so he's a brahmana of great respect. So in the house, we say in the house means he had an extended family. It was a big house. It still is a big house. And then there's a courtyard in front of the big house, and there's a wall outside the courtyard of that big house. And so they had the door locked, the gate of the big wall, and then they had kirtan, and uproarious kirtan. And for some people that was a problem, because they were making a lot of noise all night long. And then there were a lot of people who were very interested in the kirtan. And the brahmanas took exception. They told the Qazi, this fellow is completely disrupting our income, our tradition. They didn't say our income. Our tradition. There's nothing like this mentioned in the Vedas. We're brahmanas. We know the Vedas. There's nothing like this in the Vedas. And so he should be stopped. That's where the Mridanga was broken, and Chandkazi, and you know that story, right? You don't know? The constable, on behalf of the Qazi, the leader, he came, they ordered the devotees, stop chanting. And with a stick, they broke the Mridanga. And everyone's like, whoa, the Qazi's going to give us trouble. That news went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know the pastime, and Mahaprabhu did his civil disobedience program, 10,000 followers, 10,000 angry Bengalis. went to all the marketplaces in all of Navadvip, and ended up at night under the window of Chandkazi's residence with torches in their hand. 10,000 people making a lot of noise under his window. So there was then, they invited him to come down. There was some discussion. He showed the marks of Lord Nrsingadev that had landed on his chest at night after he had broken the mridanga. Don't do this again or you're finished. And he started ripping his chest. He showed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the marks on his chest. The Kazi showed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the nail marks of Lord Nrsingadev on his chest. He opened up his shirt. So I didn't stop you today because Lord Nrsingadev ordered me. I'm finished if I stop your Sankirtan. So I didn't stop you. Made no attempt to. So from this day forward, in my kingdom and my generations following, the order is Sankirtan and Navadvip ki jai. So in the house of Srivas, there was public kirtan. There was kirtan that was inside the wall. And then one evening, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with the regular chanting, his mood just kind of flipped. And he took on the mood of the personality of Godhead, not just a devotee. So he went straight for the altar and sat on, it says, the throne of Vishnu, like the Vyasasan, the asana of the deity. Doesn't say what happened. He moved the deity apparently, but he sat on the throne of the deity and said, "Worship me." So they worshipped him. They got Ganges water, which is across the street from his home, and then paraphernalia, like they did abhishek and new garments and this and that and the other thing, and incense and ghee lamps, and they worshipped him. The day up to this point, he's just a devotee amongst the other devotees by outward appearance. And then he's accepting the position of the personality of Godhead. That's what Mahaprakash, you see it on the screen. It's called Mahaprakash Leela. The worship of Lord Chaitanya on the altar of Srivas Thakur in his home. And then after the arti, the worship, he called forward devotees one by one by one. And he noticed that Haridas Thakur was hiding. So he ordered him, come forward. And he ordered Haridas, behold my form. And in this public assembly, during the Mahaprakash Leela, Mahaprabhu publicly said, Haridas Thakur is more dear to him than his own self. And that he and Haridas belong to the same family. That same family is Krishna's family, not the material family. On seeing the distress of Haridas, the Lord had descended from Vaikuntha with the Sudarshan chakra in his hand. But since Haridas desired auspiciousness even for his oppressors, the Sudarshan chakra desisted. And Mahaprabhu took the beating of Haridas on his own body. So Lord Chaitanya, this is Haridas was being beaten. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lifted his kurta and showed the beating marks on his back. He accepted he protected Haridas. Mahaprabhu further said that he was unable to tolerate the distress of Haridas, so he incarnated immediately. So this pastime in Pulia where he was beaten was before Mahaprabhu appeared. And then he appeared. Haridas fell unconscious to the ground. Although he gained his external consciousness by the words of the Lord, he became agitated and began to cry. Thus he could not see the form of the Lord, because that was the initial, "Behold my form." With great humility, Haridas offered prayers. And these prayers are not found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're found in Chaitanya Bhagavat, and they're very, 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 there were 3 varies. Beautiful prayers, Haridas glorifying Lord Chaitanya. Beautiful prayers. So Haridas is now officially part of, or in the same family of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after some time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Navadvip, went to Puri, and Haridas also went to Puri. And when he went to Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu provided him a suitable place to stay. The suitable place to stay is a little distant away, because Haridas is humble and he didn't want to be in the center of everything. So a little grass hut, and over there, that's the temple, and you can sit here and chant your japa every day. And I personally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will bring your prasad. You don't have to go and beg your prasad or your meal. I'll bring to you from the Jagannath temple. So every day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and if he was not in station, somebody would do on his behalf. Mahaprabhu would go take darshan of the Jagannath early in the morning, and he would receive alms, because he's a sannyasi. Alms means some items that were offered to the deity. And his next stop was to go see Haridas. And he brought Mahaprasad of Jagannath to Haridas. Here's another, different than an ISKCON painting. There's Haridas holding up his japa beads and seeing the dome of the temple. He wouldn't come before the deity because he didn't want to offend the deity. So he saw the dome on top of the deity, the chakra. And this is an actual photograph of the place. That, it looks different today than when it looked when Haridas was there, because there's now all these structures and everything. And, very, very old tree. They've encased the tree in a certain way so that people can tie items to it and so forth and so on. So here it's a nice pilgrimage place, a place where Haridas would sit and chant. And then there are passages in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya would have discussions with the devotees, and sometimes Haridas was there. And when Haridas was there, almost without exception, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say something very pleasing, and the glorification of Haridas, because he was so dear to Lord Chaitanya. And Haridas, being very humble, would say, "Why are you speaking like this? You're an elevated Brahmana. You're in the presence of elevated personalities, and you're speaking these glowing terms about me. This isn't appropriate." And then Lord Chaitanya would refute. It's absolutely appropriate because, and give his reasons why, on the point of how strongly the chanting of the holy name is coming from you, and I came to present the chanting of the holy name. So you're Namacarya. This is where he gave him the title. Here's another incident where one Sanatana Goswami, in the course of traveling to Puri, he contracted wet itches. And here's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanting to embrace Sanatana Goswami, and Haridas Thakura is in the background watching the whole scene. And he cured Sanatana Goswami by his embrace. And here's the Murti of Haridas Thakura in his Bhajan Kutir place. Here's that same painting that you saw before, only it's a color version. And if you read Bengali, you could identify the names of each of the people because someone came by and gave the names of each of the personalities. One day after bathing in the sea, Lord Chaitanya met Haridas under the Siddha Bakul, that tree in his courtyard. Happy at heart, he earnestly asked, this is Mahaprabhu asking Haridas, how may the conditioned souls be easily delivered? Because Lord Chaitanya was expressing his anxiety. People are suffering so much. What can be done? And this is the words taken directly from Antya-lila. To my great unhappiness, I do not see a way. And Haridas said, you've already delivered them. And you've delivered them by loud chanting of the holy name. Then he gave scriptural example. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj, he gave, Haridas gave scriptural example after scriptural example after scriptural example of the power of the holy name. And because you have loudly chanted the holy name, they're already delivered. And Mahaprabhu said, Haridas, look around you. There's so many living entities. How can you say they're all delivered? And Haridas said, you allowed them to be replaced. And you delivered them also. On this earth, there are many living entities, the Lord said, some moving, some not moving. What will happen to the trees, plants, insects, and other living entities? How will they be delivered from material bondage? You have preached loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and in this way freed all moving and non-moving living entities from material bondage. So there's a lengthy, very lengthy discussion between the two, because Haridas is being asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how to deliver. Like he needs a good answer. But Haridas has only one answer. The chanting of the holy name, and the chanting of the holy name is inspired by you. So now we're coming to this is the disappearance day, the occasion of the disappearance day of Haridas. So at a certain point in time, sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would send his servant Govinda, and the servant Govinda came to see Haridas was in this debilitated condition. You know, his skin and bones are there, but he's in a very weak condition. So Govinda informed Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu immediately came to see Haridas and arranged for a tumultuous kirtan, because it was time for Haridas's departure from this world. And the kirtan, they're very beautiful paintings, of course, different styles. Here's another one of those styles. The persons around are feeling very sad to lose the presence of Haridas. Here's Lord Chaitanya embracing him. Here's the sculpture of, in a diorama style, Lord Chaitanya extending his hand to Haridas, and Haridas gives up his body right in the presence of Lord Chaitanya, seeing, he just, like Bhishma Dev, he just wanted to have his eyes staring at Lord Chaitanya when leaving his body chanting the holy name. So that's what happened. And after a body becomes just, the cage of the departed soul, it's contaminated, but Mahaprabhu didn't pay any attention to that. He picked up the body of Haridas and started dancing with the body of Haridas. And the kirtan, understanding his mood, the kirtan began, and dancing and dancing and dancing. There you see the dome of the Jagannath temple in the background. Here's another BBT painting of the same thing. And after some time of dancing with the body of Haridas Thakura, he took the body to the sea and performed proper procedures for bathing the body of Haridas using the sea water. And then after everything was done, with all the rituals and mantras and so forth, because Mahaprabhu, being Nimai Pandit previously, he knew all the rituals. And then he personally brought Haridas Thakur again to the shore of the sea. With his own hand, he dug a place for his body to go. And that's like he established the samadhi of Haridas Thakur in the ground. And it's way a sadhu is to be honored, as opposed to how another who is not a sadhu the body is to be burned. Now, there's a reason for that. The body is to be burned because if someone is a conditioned soul, they're, even after the death, the soul is attached to the body. So places where there are bodies, then there's sometimes ghosts, because the soul is attached to the body. So cemeteries and places like that are places where there's ghosts, commonly, because they want to hang out around the body. So therefore bodies are burned. So the ghosts, the soul will depart. But Haridas Thakur is not attached to the body. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established his samadhi. He personally, as you see, with his own cloth, he begged the ingredients. The ingredients were then taken to the kitchen, and the big feast was prepared, and with his own hand, he had a big hand, his own hand, he distributed prasad to all the people. And Haridas Thakur was very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, elderly, as we heard, by 35 years. And he departed this world, and this is the place today. There's a painting out front of the place, but that's the samadhi, the burial place, the samadhi tomb of Haridas Thakur. On the wall, there's something written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that's celebrated. He reasons ill to say the Vaishnavas die when living still and sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living tried to spread the holy name around. And that's Haridas Thakur, great Acharya. And as you know, I'm almost done. As you know, there's a very nice book. I probably here in the past, at least in some other places in the past, we had a seminar on Harinam Chintamani, and the speaker of Harinam Chintamani is Haridas Thakur, on the glories of the holy name, the whole science of the chanting of the holy name. Here's a little passage, and this is the end. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by material qualities, there's no question of it being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. Abhinatvam Nama Namino. Nama and Namino. Nama is the name, and Namino is who is named. And Abhina is they're non-different. Abhinatvam is having the quality or characteristic of non-difference. Abhinatvam Nama Namino. It's a very easy verse. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purnashuddho Nityamukto Abhinatvam Nama Namino. Nice verse. And that's our discussion on the disappearance day that we're honoring, the disappearance of Thakur Haridas. So let's see if we have some comments or questions. Oh, there's a big audience out there. Can you see the screen? Really? He can't, he's up on a high chair. You have to see through the railing or something. Okay. Yes. No, behind you.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Haridas Thakur's humility, whenever we hear it's just unimaginable. The particular phrase I was thinking of is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's coming with the Sudarshan Chakra to just get rid of those people who are beating him. But seeing the distress of Haridas Thakur, while they're beating him, he's just so kind and compassionate, even to those people. While we hear and understand this in theory, it's extremely difficult. I mean, forget about that.
It's otherworldly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, even a slight inconvenience by someone, I'm like, okay, can't you think of, like, what are you doing? It just, it goes into a different direction. So I'm just appreciating Haridas Thakur's epitome of that humility and how the Lord himself has reciprocated for that humility.
And devotees of the Lord are capable of the same. Their nature is derived from the source. So as the source, so also those who are very dear to the source, they have the same characteristic.
Just one more reflection, Guru Maharaj, on that painting of King Prataparudra. We saw it twice. I was just thinking, he's a king and he's commissioning a painting of himself. He could do, he can be
on a throne or whatever he wants.
Yeah, that was like, wow. So he is considering that as the best moment of his life.
At the feet of. And a comment that I commonly make when showing that painting is, he doesn't show himself in a kirtan. He shows himself hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which means, that's it's him, but it's also something that was coveted by all the devotees, along with Nam Sankirtan, was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam together in the assembly of devotees. Both very important. Anything else? Yes. Yeah, here comes the microphone. Could you pass the microphone forward?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
There is a mention of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I had recently seen something on social media and I had heard the story about him in some of your session, about him dancing. When he was doing kirtan, he was dancing, and along with him all the animals started dancing and all. That whole picture, I can visualize it, and saw that there was a post saying that in Jharkhand, in Ranchi, there is his pad chinna.
There's a what?
His footprints.
Okay.
So I couldn't believe it, but I just wanted to check with you, maybe, like, is that true social media post, or it could be the wrong one, just misguided?
Social media doesn't make it true or false.
Yeah.
And a place of worship doesn't make it true or false either. Meaning, for non-verifiable reasons, people want to have some, notoriety, and they want to ask people for give a donation, put a donation on at the foot of the deity or something like that. So it's self-aggrandizement or their family maintenance that people do stuff like that sometimes. So whether it's social media or live, they're both can be real or fiction. So you don't know. This situation of Lord Chaitanya's feet, I don't know. I can't comment.
Oh, okay.
But so, if it's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, I was just thinking if there is some what is called Tirtha Sthal or is of that nature.
Well, there are Bhaktisiddhanta was acclaimed as being a walking encyclopedia, meaning he was so knowledgeable about everything. But I'm not Bhaktisiddhanta. Then even if you go to the place and say, is this for real? I saw it on social media. Is it for real? They'll say, of course it's for real. But it doesn't mean it's for real.
That's what is.
So, therefore, one of the sources of protection is Bhaktisiddhanta type people that are so knowledgeable that if they make an utterance, it's not coming from their imagination, it's coming from fact, because they have that capacity and have information and retention of that information or realization.
Sure.
So that's how you know. Guru Sadhu Shastra, that's how you can know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Haribol. Thank you for coming here and gracing here. Many pranams at your lotus feet. Maharaj, I had two basic questions. So we were seeing that both Haridas Thakur and Lord Chaitanya, they belong to the same family, and Lord Chaitanya is incarnation of Vishnu. And whose incarnation is Haridas Thakur?
Oh, the same family. My understanding of what that means is, we're connected to Krishna alike. Now, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. So he's not just Vishnu. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. So, and all living entities are parts and parcels of Krishna, so they're of the same family.
So we all are of the same family.
Yeah, so we're all of the same family.
Yes.
But so what did he mean when he said that? We're connected to Krishna equally. Because Lord Chaitanya, was taking the position of devotee of Krishna. So as a devotee of Krishna, you're a devotee of Krishna, like I am, so we're brothers. We're of the same family.
Of course.
Like that.
Yes, very nice. Thank you.
Although by birth of a different type or quality or parentage, doesn't matter. Birth is not the consideration. That's the point. Second?
Yes, the other question was when I noticed in the picture, the prostitute, when she was completely transformed, she became a sannyasini. So she shaved her head and she was chanting. So do we have this parampara in Gauriya Sampradaya with Hare Krishna movement? Women can become sannyasis?
Well, not sannyasis, but renounced, yes. Sannyas is a formal order. And there's procedures and rituals and standards. But one can become as renounced as a sannyasi in any form. and respect it as much as a sannyasi in a female form. Janava is a classic example. Janava, Nityananda's wife, or his expansion, his consort. Janava. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
And that's just in our Gaudiya tradition. There's other examples. She's next.
I was very moved by the pastime where Lord Chaitanya promises to bring Haridas Thakur's prasadam every day, and he consistently does that. And I've heard from you this statement, love is in the details. It's just very moving in these pastimes to see the nuances and subtleties and the little micro interactions that are just so full of love. Something for us to aspire to. And I was moved to share. We see this also in Prabhupada's life, where even though he's a world acharya, he's never too busy for the little details of and loving exchanges with the devotees. There's the very famous anecdote of Prabhupada going in and checking in to Jamuna Mataji's health when she has jaundice during the Pandal program. But I recently read another anecdote, Guru Maharaj, in Bond of Love, where this disciple of Prabhupada, the woman, she's sharing that she and her husband were having a personal meeting with Prabhupada, and their son fell asleep in Prabhupada's lap during the meeting. So she asked Prabhupada, what should we do, Prabhupada? He said, don't worry, let him sleep and I'll bring him to you when he wakes up. So 2 hours later, Prabhupada walks the child holding Prabhupada's finger to their room. And she was just so moved that he would take the time for that.
And there's so many examples.
Yeah.
So many examples.
And a question.
You have another one. Go ahead.
Guru Maharaj, in the anecdote with Ramachandra Khan and how the entire village got destroyed because of the offense of the leader, something I was thinking was, even within our spiritual tradition, they can be leaders that have very beautiful human needs, but they use strategies that can be harmful. And, people who, the praja, they're not in a position of power to really have an influence in the situation. So in one sense, it seems unfair. And in another sense, of course, Krishna is making the perfect arrangement for all of us for our purification and our journey towards him.
Yeah, we're not told the detail of the kind of following Ramchandra Khan gathered around him. In other words, it could be the following had disdain for him, but he was their ruler, so they were stuck, or they had become like him. We're not given any description of their disposition. All we're told is they suffered because their leader made a grievous offense. 3 strikes. Leave, dig up a hole, and purify the place where he sat. It's mega offensive. And it's true. It works the other way. When Yudhisthira was so virtuous, everybody prospered. Or take it the other way. When in Ramchandra's Leela, or in Krishna's Leela, when a son died earlier, the king was to blame. The king was held, to some degree at least, responsible. So it's just that's the position of leadership. So it doesn't mean don't take the position of leadership. Don't become a parent, because that's the position of leadership. Don't become a teacher. Don't become anything where you can bring harm to yourself and others because you're not so qualified. But there is secondary and tertiary and further circles out, was the impact of a virtuous person or the opposite, a sinful person, offensive person. Others are impacted. So what to do? Take the association of elevated souls and become purified by that association and their activities and their instructions, and be a faithful follower. Strive to become.
Guru Maharaj, to have a devotion like Haridas Thakura, is it a right understanding that it needs a pious life in previous lives? Like how this undisturbed devotion can happen?
Well, yes. Because from childhood, he was chanting Hari's name, Krishna's name. So where'd that come from? Something back there. There's no description what was back there. But you can infer something back there. So yes. It doesn't say, in this life, in his life as Haridas, where did he get the prompt? Like, who was his teacher? Because generally that's a principle. There's no information one way or the other. So likely something, but we don't know what that something is. Same, we don't know what his previous life was, but we can infer it. Something. Substantial something. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So Haridas Thakur was chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or something else?
Yes, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Yes, you're enthusiastic. Give her a microphone before she explodes.
Maharaj, I was wondering that Haridas being Lord Brahma, that did not come out during these pastimes at all, or anything at all.
Your question is muddied, but I think I know what you're asking. Well, to step back from your question. It is understood that everybody in Lord Chaitanya's Leela has their counterpart in Krishna Leela. So the counterpart for Haridas is Lord Brahma. But it doesn't mean, I'll say it 3 times, it doesn't mean that before he became Haridas, he was Lord Brahma. And then he put a sign outside the door and said, I'm going to take a break and go and join Lord Chaitanya's pastimes to become Haridas. And when I'm come back, I'll take the sign down. It's not what it means. You were going to pass the microphone. You were enthusiastic. What happened? Okay. She's finished.
Just a follow-up question. So, as you mentioned, they always have their higher self in Krishna Loka, like Lord Brahma, etc.
When you say higher self, just a little editing. They're in this Leela and in that Leela.
They parallelly exist?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
One, there are different ways of describing it, but that's one of the ways to describe it. They're eternally associated as, now, Brahma is a post, and there are different living entities that occupy the post.
Yes.
So, but the post that somebody occupies, one living entity or another living entity occupies, that post has its counterpart in Gaura Lila. The Haridas is the one who is not necessarily a post, but he's performing activities in Gaura Lila. Comparable to, you can say, anyway, you different ways of describing the relationship between one and the other, but the counterpart in Krishna Lila is Lord Brahma. The counterpart in Gaura Lila. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj. It doesn't mean it has to be in the same universe. It can be in any universe.
That's correct. Doesn't mean any of those things.
And it doesn't have to be necessarily just one counterpart. So he can have like infinite counterparts.
Well, sometimes the source literature is by Kavi Karnapur. Kavi Karnapur is a Kavi. He's a poet.
Yes.
So one of his literatures is Who's Who. In Gaura Lila, this is the name. In Krishna Lila, that's the name. And in some cases, in Gaura Lila, there's multiple personalities. It doesn't mean there's multiple jivas inside the body of that devotee. It's more the bhava expansion of that devotee. In Krishna Lila has a bhava expansion that sometimes that word is used, a bhava expansion, the emotional expansion, a transcendental mood in relation to the personality Godhead relationship of ecstasy. And there's a mixture, as long as they're not incompatible in some cases. In many cases, there's no mixture, it's just one-to-one. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
In the back there, any enthusiastic? Going once. Going twice.
Going 1 night years old.
Okay. We'll end. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.